ahead of time. Oh, that's awful. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Sailboat project. Now it's been a couple weeks. There's been some work done on the boat. So in this episode we are going to recap what has been done, and we're going to do some fiberglass and some resin work on the rear transom. So yeah, stay tuned. So the majority of the work that's been done off camera is just reworking of things you've already seen. So this whole back portion has been redone. And it's been redone in a way that'll allow us to have an easier time later on. So in the first iteration in a previous video, we were looking at these top portions, and these top portions didn't include the foam that we're putting on them, or it did include the foam that we're putting on them. So the foam is going to come all the way up to the top of the deck. Now the issue with that was that we're going to have a gunnel running around the front of it. Now a gunnel is a piece of wood that goes, it's like a bump rail on the side of the boat. And so the gunnel didn't have a solid piece of wood to attach to here. Also, it wasn't structurally sound. So if this thing bumped something or somebody lifted up on this back portion, they'd be lifting up on the underlying foam. It'd be fiberglass and it'd be strong, but they'd be lifting up on the underlying foam and it wouldn't be structural. So now this completely rebuilt portion, everything's wood, everything's solid, everything's attached to the boat. Other work that's been done is this compartment on the inside, and let's take a closer look at that. So let's take a closer look at this portion. So this portion is going to be where two hatches, the trolling motor support and the rudder support are going to be run through. So we've already drilled the holes for the trolling motor support. We've located the rudder support. What we wanted to do was to frame in this portion before we drilled the holes and before we finalized everything, put the deck on top, started thinking about the hatches. And the reason we want to do that is because this portion back here is going to serve a couple of different uses. The major usage is just storage. It's going to be a place, if you're sitting here sailing the boat, there's going to be hatches on the top that you can lift up, grab ropes, grab whatever, and it's also going to be used as a cooler. So it's going to have the capabilities that you can just dump ice in there and then throw your beverages, whatever you want in there, and then as throughout the day the ice melts, there will be a drain plug in there that you can pull out, and all the excess water, everything that will collect in there will just drain out of the boat, and it won't get, in storage, it won't get moldy or anything like that. It'll be a dry storage compartment, which will be ideal. So yeah, a lot of considerations going into that, but we wanted to frame this in before we put the two supports in there. But yeah, it's a pretty big storage thing. It can fit a lot of drinks, fit some ice, some sandwiches, all the good stuff. So yeah. So just to walk through some of the major considerations about this portion, because there's a lot going on here, and it's these supports that are going from a place that's supposed to be dry into open to below in a place that's going to be wet. So what we have is we have a solid trolling motor support. And so here is what we've framed up. And what this is it's a specially designed collar with a specially designed filler that'll allow the trolling motor that we have to slip into it. And this portion gets sealed through the hole in the boat and completely gets watertight. So what happens is everything that's on the outside can be wet, could get wet. Everything on the inside stays dry. So there's no issues between the water coming into places that they're not supposed to, creating mold, rot, which is what the boat was originally, which we are not trying to do. And so this setup is also going to be here for the rudder. So the rudder is going to have a pole or a post that comes up through, attaches to the tiller arm. The tiller arm runs forward, and that's how you steer the boat. So it's going from a place that's dry storage, through a hole in the boat to a place that's wet. So everything needs to be sealed up. This is specially designed with a collar that has relief holes in it so that if sand or crud or anything gets in there, that the trolling motor can still come out because it's not going to be friction because we have these relief holes in it. So yeah, lots of considerations going into this, lots of, what's wet, what needs to stay dry, all the stuff that's taken into consideration when doing this addition. So yeah, it's good stuff. But what we're going to do for this episode is we have this. This was a transom support that I built because the original transom was made out of this really thin fiberglass material, and since we were doing an addition onto it, I wanted it to attach to something that was very, very solid and wasn't this thin fiberglass material. So I made this transom, resined the transom, it's sealed, we're not going to have to worry about rot, but the transom has not been resined or fiberglass to the actual boat yet. We didn't want to fiberglass anything in place until, we were sure that we were doing things correctly. So, what we're planning for this episode is to make more of that goo stuff, that shredded wheat fiberglass goo that we made. And we're going to place that onto this transom, adhere it, screw it back in place so it's nice and tight, and we should have a solid piece of the boat that we can firmly attach and bolt through this portion too, so it's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, let's do it. Okay, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. As always, fiberglass and resin goes really, really quick. So yeah, time lapses and such don't really do it justice, but like when that resin kicks over, it's going. So yeah, basically what it is, I took the shredded wheat that we made and I smeared it along the inside of this transom, then put the transom board back on and screwed it back through in the same holes. So theoretically, I used some scrap 2x4s as framer instead of putting that back on because that's just really hard to deal with. So this is screwed in the exact same place as it was previously. So when the resin sets up, we should be able to take the screws back out, put this back on, put the screws back in, and it will be just like it was. So yeah. So now we just wait for the resin to cure, and we'll keep going. But yeah, it's weird seeing it without the back on it. It really kind of flashes back to what it used to be. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.